we're going to sit down and take a look at how we are doing this in terms of the technology. Like right now, I'm looking at my laptop. Ian's going to be calling in a special guest today on a broken telephone. Oh, man, I love this idea of doing a call-in radio show. We've been wanting to do it forever. So many of you watching are so much smarter than us and brilliant and have inspired us and just really are too busy doing cool stuff and growing your businesses to sit around and talk on a pod every freaking day. But if we can buzz you in, what an exciting way to spend some of this quarantine, because it's a crazy time. It's a crazy time right now. A lot of people are scared, excited, bored, nervous. There's all kinds of stuff. And we're going to get into some of that today. So the idea of today's episode is what will be the nature of this recession.
Spoiler. Who knows?
Who knows? It's been so strange to be in a state of suspended reality on this ultimate snow day. Everybody's sort of waiting to see how precisely this shit hits the fan. And I don't know. And some of us are having these local indicators, and then you look online and Twitter and mainstream media and you see things, and it's like nothing I've ever experienced in my life. And I want to tell you a little bit about how 2008 felt. The last recession was so different. It was the same in the sense of the sense of confidence that everybody had before. Everything just seemed to make sense financially. Starting a business, buying a home, putting your money in the market. It was just so much confidence.
Pre-2008, it felt like that.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, we were in San Diego, 2006, 2007. It's like, well, Dan and Ian, you guys, this is like perennial figures, not necessarily our parents, but Dan and Ian, you guys have good jobs now. You got a steady paycheck. It's time to buy that condo in San Diego.
Well, and it wasn't even that. It was like buy two and rent them out and like put 5% down. And really smart people would say that strategy, like, yeah, like real estate is the best investment in the world. It's going to be up and to the right. You can afford to get these loans. The banks are giving the money away. You should take it and do this deal, and then one day shit hit the fan. But it felt so different than this feels to me. And part of the reason I think is because in that downturn, in the last recession, what banks were doing was they were handing out these loans to people that could never pay them back. And then they were polishing them up and selling them to like safe investors as these wonderful safe investments, a home loan. I mean, what gets better than that sort of thing? And so all this risk was like hidden in the system, and certainly some people noticed the trend or whatever, but for mainstream America, mainstream world, we were all sitting around saying, yeah, homes are great investments. It's a good thing.
Like little termites, termites. It's like you don't see the trail necessarily. It's like, did I hear something? Did I hear a little?
Yeah. And then like one morning, my favorite meme of all time is the cat that has the newspaper and just like looks up from the newspaper and has a realization like, I should buy some new socks or whatever. And there was like one, banker that walked into their office one morning, was like typing at the spreadsheet and like sort of looked up and was like, oh, we're out of business. And it just instantly rippled across the economy. And now we're seeing it get inverted and happen the opposite way, where the banks have just been doing what they do and everybody's been doing what they do. And now all of a sudden it seems as if a huge percentage of us aren't going to be able to meet our obligations to these financial institutions. And it gets worse. It goes deeper. A lot of people have invested in things like municipalities, and like deeper, the trend goes forever. And what if all these people can't meet their liabilities? What happens to the institutions that buttress them? And so it's really, I mean, the question in 2008 was clear right away, which was like, this bank is either going to stay in business or not. And now the question seems really up in the air. And I think that's that combined with the fact that we're all sitting around at home, spending a lot of time looking at this stuff, can lead to a great deal of anxiety.
Well, we're at home, and here's something else that's changed, Dan. We're at home. we're reading these news media outlets who a lot of times have conflicting information in
Yeah.
terms of like how the economy is doing, what the unemployment rate is. Also, we're not really able to talk to each other. Right? In 2008, you could freely walk around the street and you could be like, "Oh, James lost his job, man, sucks." I can't see anybody here, man. I can't talk to anybody. I don't know what's going on. I'm
Really?
not in touch with normal people right now. I'm just looking at the YouTubes. I feel disconnected.
Well, I feel connected by so many of your emails. I'm going to read to them today. We're going back to like the old school long form emails. Keep them coming in. Dan at tropicalmba.com. I'm going to share a few with you today. Speaking of mainstream media, there's a quote from the New York Times that suggests 16.7 million unemployed claims in the last 3 weeks. There's a difference between unemployment claims and what's actually happening on the street. My guess, if 16.7 million people actually got their stuff together to file and were able to file because of the type of job they had or whatever, that number is much, much higher.
Yeah, and when you look at the graph, it actually doesn't represent that much of a step up. It's only a couple percentage points from where we were before this happened.
Well, the graph is a huge step up, but the percentage points doesn't look like a lot. And the reason that that's important is that our whole sort of economic philosophy is based on stability and repetition. And all of a sudden we're throwing this enormous curveball and everybody's like, I think that's part of the reason people think, everybody's going to like shake hands and agree to not pay rent for 2 or 3 months. And then the government's going to flip the switch back on. And there's this kind of hope out there in the ether that we're just going to swing back.
Right. And when you say shake hands, you mean virtual shake hands.
Virtual shake hands.
Another thing that I read was Austin projects 260,000 job losses. And I think Austin right now is a little bit over 1 million in terms of
so
population.
People are going to lose their jobs,
which is crazy because I didn't ever think about this town as like a tourist town or an entertainment town or something. But I think most of the people probably that have lost their jobs are in restaurant, hospitality, and maybe retail.
Yeah.
So when you look at that, you think, well, a quarter of Austinites are going to lose their jobs. That seems
well,
high.
And it'll also be interesting. Like, you haven't heard a lot of this rippling through the professional classes yet. And this is like your retail investor class and all that kind of stuff. And those people are all still in a suspended animation. Like a lot of people don't know that, like, I can just start listing off industries, whether it's like insurance or, corporate sales or whatever. Like, I mean, these people haven't quite lost their jobs yet, a lot of them. And it's not really clear. Those people are still waiting to see what happens. And why wouldn't this ripple that way too? I mean, these are the consumers of their products. So, if you were to say like, what's going to be the over under job loss right now, 25%, I mean, it seems like a decent over under right now, but I would be,
gosh, it seems high if that's true. I mean, it seems
1 in 4 Americans lose their jobs over this. It wouldn't surprise me at all based on what we're seeing from the early returns here, so to speak.
Another thing that was mentioned in that same article, Dan, I just want to point out is the city of Austin tax revenue lost between 40 million and 60 million, basically. And so there's a bunch of downstream effects that, as entrepreneurs, we're even trying to figure out, right? So it's like, man, should I be reordering for Christmas time? Like, what's going to happen here? And when you look at the downstream effect of tax loss revenue of these cities, what are the chances that some of these cities go bankrupt? I mean, the article basically said Austin has good cash reserves, it's been acting properly or whatever. But what if you haven't been acting properly in your city? Like,
yeah,
what
does
if
it
you don't
even
have
mean
cash
to bankrupt a city? Then what happens? And where do the down chain effects go? Like, if cities start bankrupting and turning to the states, and the states put their hands up, and then they start turning to the Fed, and then at a certain point, you either like have no municipal services and support, or someone bails them out. And then what happens when the bailer needs to get bailed? And this is like the ultimate concern, a situation that I'm sure we'd all want to avoid, is that like the fundamentals of our systems get questioned in a way that in the mainstream media, they're not being questioned right now. I know a lot of you watching this are concerned about that very thing. Let's I want
to read a comment here and then we can get onto this email.
Okay.
And then we're going to talk to Jeff, who's been commenting on the show the last couple days, and he's got some properties. I want to talk to him about what he sees on the ground.
What we should do is read your comments and then have Jeff come on the show, because Jeff's in real estate. I've got a couple emails here from listeners, but I think we should.
Okay, this is related to what we just said, though. Mike, anecdotal evidence. My wife just got furloughed from her job at Yeti here in Austin. Took her 5 days to get the unemployment claim filed. The state unemployment website was absolutely slammed.
It was slammed, and a lot of people that want to apply for that reason haven't yet. So there's that. And a lot of people like don't have legit jobs, but they still lost their jobs and they're part of the economy. And then a lot of people aren't qualified for unemployment. And then a lot of people just haven't gotten around to it yet, or they're not in. So that number is like the smallest number possible. Like, it's like, that's not your page views. That's like your actual conversions. So do the math on that, Let's buzz Jeff in to talk about what he's seen on the ground. Jeff has been commenting on the live stream quite a bit. Jeff has 100 tenants. He can clarify these numbers. But I'd love to hear what he's seen on the ground in terms of the Wall Street Journal reported that 1 in 3 Americans didn't pay their rent in the first 5 days of April. Let's see. Hey. I'll get more.
Okay, I think I got Jeff here. 1 second.
Speakerphone.
Jeff, are you with us?
Yep, I'm still here. How's it going, guys?
Hey, Jeff, thanks for calling in, buddy. Hey, so you've kind of become a bit of a character on this show. You've been in the comments, and I just want you to tell everybody what your business is. Uh-oh, somebody didn't pay their internet bill. Maybe it was me.
It was me.
I think I lost you, Ian.
You didn't pay your internet bill? It's getting dire, huh?
No, so yeah, I heard part of it. I've got, between stuff I own and stuff that I work with other people on, about 100 units in Southeast Wyoming, and stuff is okay for now. I think about 7% of my tenants are either going to be late or needed a discount. And that's kind of the situation as it was at the beginning of April.
And so when you say 100 units, that means basically 100 dwellings or 100 apartments?
Yeah, some are single family houses, some are apartments, stuff like that.
And tell me a little bit about the negotiations that happened in early April, because I think you cut some special deals with some of your tenants. So you cut special deals and 7% didn't pay?
Sure. So some of the tenants reached out to me right away, and no one really knew what was going on. I just decided to cut their rent by about 20% in both cases for the next 2 months and move on. That was the quickest and easiest solution then. And going forward, I kind of decided to take on a little bit less of that risk myself. And so for some of the others, we've done things like apply their damage deposit to their rent, and then we're going to have them catch that damage deposit back up and build it back up over the next couple months. And 5% of the people are just late. All that being said, the people who are late now are the people who were late in the fall and have had problems previously.
Interesting. So maybe nothing yet, then it sounds like. I mean, if the same people that were on the edge or before were on the edge now?
Yeah, pretty much.
And are you having active conversations with these people? Like, did you send out an email or a letter saying, hey, reach out? I mean, how do you get the vibe or communicate with 100 people? Because if I had 100 clients or customers, and I didn't hear anything from them, and then May's coming up, and I don't know if 50% are going to pay or 90%. I mean, that's something I might want to know. Is that the case for you as well?
Oh, absolutely. You have to be proactive in this situation. I emailed everybody. Some of the people who I have had problems with in the past, I gave them a call or shot them a text message and said, hey, let me know if you might have a problem this month. I know things are crazy, but I'm definitely interested in working with you, but you need to let me know or I'll assume everything is fine.
Jeff, what's the worst case scenario for you? Like, how does this end bad for you personally or in your business? Have you figured out those numbers?
Yeah, a lot of the business, I'm not leveraged to the hilt. I have a lot of equity in the buildings that I own, though I do have some loans. Like I can go on a 30-ish% drop in revenue, more or less in perpetuity. And for the clients that I work with, similar situation for them.
I have a question for Jeff. Hey, Jeff, thanks for calling in.
Hey,
This is amazing. Yeah, the question is, I know you hang out with a lot of other people, entrepreneurs in the real estate space that are using various strategies. We're talking a lot today about renter behavior and mortgage owner behavior. I'm curious about investors. How do you think it's going to trickle down to your community? Like, how bad are you guys going to be hit by this? Because it seems like you're in a pretty good situation. What about your peers and colleagues?
I think we're in a good spot. A lot of people that I network with really focus, you make all your money on the buy, not on the sell, right? So you get a good deal, you don't overextend yourself, and you can ride out the storm for quite a while. Some of my peers have been proactive to the point of, getting in line for mortgage forbearance, stuff like that. I've reached out to my bank to see what sort of options I have in that arena, but I haven't exercised them yet. I figured worst case scenario, I'd take a forbearance for 3 months, set the money aside, and then just give it all back to them at the end of the month, just in case I needed a lot of cash. But where the bulk of the units are, this is a government town. It's supported by the feds, a gigantic military base that's continually expanding. So a lot of the government-related jobs are still functioning.
Jeff, what's in terms of like what you see in terms of the other people that are invested in real estate, and maybe not exactly like you are, but what's on some of the sentiment in the community in terms of people that are maybe over leveraged or in a good position? Like, do you actually see people going out and buying right now, or is everything freezing? What's your general overall feeling?
I've heard that there are still sales going on. Agents are getting creative in terms of Skype tours or FaceTime tours or whatever. A lot of the investors are just sitting on cash and waiting for the people who are stretched too thin to blow out and start dumping distressed assets. I've already gotten one call about that, and I'm considering making a sizable purchase in that space from someone who is over leveraged and just got blown out because of some bad luck and being stretched too thin.
I have a question for Jeff. Jeff, I just got an email from another listener about the opportunities that might exist in the real estate space in the next few quarters. How would you recommend entrepreneurs who are curious about getting into real estate, even in just a small way, to get access to some of that deal flow?
I think the best part would be, you got to start with education because nobody wants to lose their shirt. I think commercial real estate is going to go sideways first. Restaurants aren't paying their rent because they're not making any money. And if they are, they're not going to be able to hold on to it for a while. So that would be where I would look to first. I think that the people who, just got sent home and are working from home, nothing much is going to change on that side, on the residential side. And then there could be some strapped investors that want to unload stuff for cheap. That would be where I would look first. But if you know anyone locally who, is in real estate or, as an investor, reach out to them, say, hey, I've got some money I want to put into this and the right deal. Maybe we can work together, or maybe I'll just buy it on my own. If you don't know anyone who's already an investor, reach out to an agent or somebody like that and say, hey, this is something I'm interested in getting into. what are the next steps? How do I analyze these deals and go from there?
Cheers. Thanks, Jeff.
All right, Jeff. Well, thanks so much for giving us some insight into what you're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on, guys.
All right, Jeff. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Yeah.
Freaking rad. Awesome. Again, that's Jeff, DC member, common commenter, and real estate investor, manages over 100 units. So hopefully we can keep checking in with Jeff to see what that rental payment rate is. His rental payment rate higher than the national average because he's been proactive. So kudos to you on that, Jeff.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear from him that things haven't changed much. I mean, I think that's a good sign in general. It's like the people that are late again, of course.
Yep.
That's good.
I got an email from listener Nick Huber, who runs it's called Cash and Real Estate. I was like, click open. And Nick Huber runs a podcast called The Sweaty Startup, and he's been on the TMBA before a couple times, and I really love his way of thinking. Go and subscribe to The Sweaty Startup because Nick he got absolutely crushed by the recession, by the virus, and he live blogged him freaking trying to save his business like a boss, and it was super compelling. And then he's sending me emails about freaking opportunities.
Not only that, he's in the comments today. He's all over the comments.
What a true blue entrepreneur. I absolutely love it. Just a man on a freaking mission and just looking at the bright side of everything. I love listening to your stuff, Nick. So Nick, hopefully we can buzz him in at some point, but wrote me a wonderful email about, the opportunity for entrepreneurs to diversify into real estate during this time period. He mentions there are two types of real estate investors, and this is Nick speaking: speculators and cash flow buyers. As long as you're in group number 2, it's a great place to be. You get depreciation, appreciation, leverage, and 1031 exchanges, which I think allow you to pass on your operating income to.
They allow you to pass on your profits. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure into new vehicles and not have to pay capital gains tax on them.
Right. So, and Nick claims that real estate is the cheat code to building wealth in the American economy. He does speak about this quite a bit on his show. I recommend downloading some of his older episodes with real estate investors. General single family and multifamily rentals are not a good deal at all. Too much competition. People also consider their homes an investment, but it really isn't at all. It's an expense. Outside of those areas, there are a lot of advantages to having at least part of your net worth in real estate. It gets even more profitable and fun when you gain a competitive advantage operationally. So he automated the check-in process for his self-storage investment. We were just down at one the other day. Hotel operators will be making the same move in the next 10 years. Is similar, like when you go get Korean barbecue now in Austin, a server doesn't walk up to your table. You walk up to the person basically cooking the Korean barbecue and they give it to you. The same thing's happening in real estate. Most real estate investors are 50 plus. This is a huge advantage for tech-savvy entrepreneurs to make some operational shifts in the future. And just to give you an overview on Nick's general philosophies and why I think they're interesting, is he mirrors a strategy that Ian and I found really compelling and still do, which is, look, we know all this stuff that established money doesn't know about internet marketing, about ways to acquire new customers, about ways to automate businesses. We've been learning about this stuff for a decade. Whereas the people who sort of own property in our countries typically came from a different generation. And so there's an awesome opportunity to compete with them. When we launched our first manufacturing business, our competition thought that manufacturing something in China was ludicrous. It's not, they would never get on that plane. They would never explore it. They never think that the customers would want to buy stuff from China. They came from a generation where China made cheap crap. And China was far away and it was not made in America. And so we're just not going to do it. And then these two young guys show up and we're like, yeah, China, that's natural to us.
It's easy.
And so a lot of these things that feel natural to you, like getting on a live stream or listening to a podcast or using Google, is not super intuitive to another generation, at least, and it's not baked into the way they grow businesses. So go compete with them. That's basically Nick's idea. Thanks for writing in, Nick.
And Jeff chimed in. Jeff, that was just on the phone. He says, great thoughts on single and multifamily units. They have a ton of competition. I guess the unit that Jeff was talking about maybe buying is a 15-unit building for $740,000. There's not a lot of competition. This makes tons of sense to me. It's like not only is it more expensive, not only is it potentially more profitable, there's actually less competition. So when you look at this, and I'd say single family homes for like rent or like retail investments, like you got a good job, you can go out and buy one in South Austin and rent it out to the techie that comes into town that doesn't know where he or she should live, you know, and they pick it and they're like, oh man, I didn't want to live next to this, you know, warehouse or whatever. That's a retail investment. What Jeff is talking about and what Nick is talking about are actual investments. Those are things that are hard to get your hands on.
If you're going to stick with our,
exactly.
Yeah. One more email. We're going to call this a segment called Ben's Amazing Emails. We got a listener, Ben, and I'll share more information about him if he wants us to. Ben writes us amazing emails with questions, prompts, and thoughts. And again, Ian at Tropical MBA, Dan at tropicalmba.com. We are just, this is us. This is our sandbox for ideas. So we're just working. I mean, a lot of the things that we say, we're going to end up not believing in. And I think that that's part of the fun of what doing this show is all about, is like, you try on an idea and then somebody like Nick or Jeff writes and says, dude, like, I'm not so sure about that. And, you know, that's kind of like ultimately what leads to our more polished weekly podcast.
Yeah. I mean, our production team absolutely saves our ass and they're not here on these daily shows. So you're actually getting to see the raw ideas here.
Right. I mean, that's what it takes, is you got to be wrong a lot to eventually be right.
Sure.
Sometimes. Okay. So actually, Ben, amazing email. Ben wrote, thanks a lot to Jeff for his inputs and his insights. There's a lot of questions, but one of the things Ben really digs into basically is, I know I mentioned this in previous emails, but I keep bringing this up. The more I dig into this, the more dire the situation looks. Basically, am I taking crazy pills here? 79% of jobs in the US are service related. 79%.
That would explain the Austin number, I guess.
In 1900, it was 30%. So I haven't fact checked this, but Ben's a very smart guy, so we'll take it for what it is now. There are 42 million retail jobs in the US. 42 million. 16.7 million service jobs. In the hotel and leisure industry specifically. Mm-hmm. Are people going to hotels? Are people going to restaurants? Are people going to retail chain stores? It's this idea of like, these numbers are so enormous and the effect is so clear. What do we expect to happen here? And I think that is the way Ben says it. I have trouble seeing how the economy doesn't slide into a deep recession and very likely a depression. It just looks like we have a huge surplus of workers and no place to work and huge debts to pay back. I kind of like share Ben's kind of like niggling obsession here. Is like, I do believe in optimism and that our systems are interesting and robust and powerful, and maybe we do bounce back and sort this all out. But it's very tempting to think that it doesn't look good.
On Twitter today, looking at a travel blogger talking about how his revenue has fallen just straight down because of these affiliate deals that he has and the hotel partners and things like that. I'm trying to imagine when the next time I'll get on an airplane is, Dan. Like, when can I actually get on an airplane next?
Yeah, I mean, and then like, so you're not hearing about it from like the official news outlets because, well, they haven't made the corporate decision and like said, we're going to, Marriott Co. is going to combine with share or whatever. Like, but you are hearing it from people who run websites that have ads on them, and just nobody's buying stuff from my ads anymore. So the question is like whether there will be a bounce back, whether people will start staying in hotels again. And the outlook on that is, it's really tough to imagine. I've heard this from a lot of people is, okay, like we might level this thing off and find ourselves into a new, like, take your temperature to like go to work kind of thing. But until there's a vaccine, how are things really going to normalize? And that's sort of a question that Ben asked as well, is, are we going to host DCBKK this year? And the answer is, well, if there is an event in October, it's got to be probably reimagined at this point, unless some miracle happens. And so we'll attempt to reimagine it. But the optimistic side might say, okay, well, maybe this year we got to put our events off and do them on Zoom or whatever. But if they develop a vaccine within, or there's some kind of health breakthrough, the whole thing might say, we're back, game on.
Or maybe people just, suit up, mask up, and say, this is the best I can do. And if it happens, it happens. I think that that's a strong possibility as well.
I mean, the bottom line is like, could you even imagine having this conversation 4 weeks ago? So my answer to the DCBKK thing is like, let's see in 4 weeks.
Yep.
One thing I want to mention is there's a lot of people asking about the trends in hiring right now, including Ben. Are you seeing a significant decrease in offerings at dynamitejobs.co? Yes, but an interesting trend. So we're seeing tons more candidates sign up. So obviously people are interested in remote work and they want to work for your companies. We're seeing a lot of your companies put hiring on ice right now, but not in content production.
Yeah,
40% of our jobs since March 15th have been content related. Marketing, content, and generation, video editing, article writing.
I'll say this, and said it in an earlier episode. Now, in my mind, if you have a little bit of budget, or if you were able to free it up somehow, or if you have a vision, now is the time to hire, because you have all these people telling you, like 100% influx in terms of like the amount of people signing up for Dynamite Jobs. All these people are looking for remote work. A lot of them are very qualified, and you can get them for a low price. Like, this is the time to hire if you're thinking about it.
Yeah,
because
it's not
there's
like
all
a
these people available.
Buy low and grade. It's like whoever just got furloughed from what was otherwise a good job. Maybe they made a professional salary commuting to work and everything. They get furloughed. Now they're sitting at home. They hear a friend of a friend says, go over to dynamitejobs.co. And all of a sudden, for the first time ever, this person has an opportunity to reimagine like the way a career looks. So it's not like, oh, this is like a deal or whatever. It's like, no, this is how we work in the remote space. Like, we never have paid as much as a commute city job pays on the wholesale, because why that's not the way the industry's set up. It's a global competition, but that person might decide that they're willing to take a 25% pay reduction to not have to spend 8 hours a day in an office, and they can earn some side income here and there. There's, the whole drill. You guys know the drill of working from home, valuing your time, optimizing your living expenses. Having a good lifestyle is worth a lot of money. And as entrepreneurs, a lot of us make that decision too. We take pay cuts to start businesses because it's pretty sweet not having to go to a job that sucks or that isn't great.
Great,
all right, that's
great
all.
Comments on the question today.
Let's talk to some smarter people than us. What are they saying?
Alexander, who works for us. So the big question is, how long till we hit the lowest point in the recession? I'm not waiting necessarily for the lowest point. I'm just waiting for the fallout. I'm waiting to see the downstream effects of this. And I think it's going to take months, if not years, to see all those happen. And so I think the idea is you don't get yourself in a compromised position. You figure out you're out in nature right now. You got a little bit of food. Maybe you're in a school bus. I think that was in a movie. All right. How can you survive as long as possible? And I think that there's going to be some pullback. I'm thinking about pulling back. It's like, whoa, how can I make sure to sustain this? Because my number one goal in life is to sustain my freedom and not have to go have a job.
But there's also like two different kinds of like business setups. There's ones that are designed to leverage the greater market forces. Every business participates in that to a degree, but there's also, a market of one, which is like, on the one hand, because we're sitting at home and we're watching TV, maybe it is interesting to make a prediction about those things, but you shouldn't have to rely on them necessarily to run a healthy and profitable business. You can say, I got 50 customers. Here's where my margins are at. I got to tighten up or not. I mean, a lot of people aren't. Right now it's the opposite way around. But anytime's a good time to run a responsible business that serves your customers and is profitable. Straight up. All
right, Dan. I think we're
now I'm starting to sweat. Here's what we're gonna do. We have to upgrade a lot of stuff out here.
You're gonna buy that AC unit?
We're gonna have to do something.
I'm gonna put it on the business.
We can't put spending on ice.
I'm gonna put that AC on the business.
Oh man. Well, we gotta put some stuff on the business, because if we're gonna keep doing this show, what I think would be very, very fun is to have like a look at the comment section. Just, man, my eyesight's still, knock on wood. I can, like, Eric and Doug, of course, and wow, Mike and
guess
Wes.
who showed up? Guess who showed up today?
Wes Monk.
Wes Monk showed up.
Man, I missed that guy.
Good to see you, buddy.
What a great crew. If we can just hit the little red button and say, Wes, give us a buzz. So that's the vision for the show. until we're done being locked down, and then maybe we take the thing on the road.
I love it. Last comment, reimagine. That's what we're telling our team. Kenton says we're reinventing, but getting pushback because our customers have been removed. The idea here is like basically everybody's going to have to reimagine their business. If you are a restaurant, you've already reimagined your business. You've transitioned everything to takeout. Maybe that's the way you stay forever. Who knows what's going to happen? By the way, I just want to mention this in terms of reimagining. Has anybody died not from coronavirus, but because they haven't got their Amazon package within 2 days? Like, because Prime isn't working the way it usually does here. Let me just say this, and I got a lot of friends that sell on Amazon. There's a lot of other places to buy products that are cheaper that will come just as fast as Amazon
Ian
now.
is so old. I love this. This is his. Whatever I'm like, oh, they don't have my serpentine belt on Amazon, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, I guess that project's done. He's like, eBay, dude. eBay. Read those guys are like reading.
First of all, eBay. Yeah, I just want to say this about eBay. eBay sellers are the original Amazon sellers. They know that they're competing with Amazon. Mm-hmm. Okay. So their prices are lower and they ship fast.
Ian is like the ultimate guy that buys shit from like some dude in Massachusetts who made 25 of them last year.
Yeah.
Like that's your like deep, dark recesses of like exhaust tubes and fan belts. Dude, and
90% used and 90% used, 5% of purchases on Amazon. There's a lot of places to buy. Hey, just think about your lonely producer, your lonely maker. Okay, Amazon takes a lot of their profits, right? Buy direct, they'll ship fast.
I agree. All right, guys, thanks for joining us at the Podshop. We not only create whatever it is Ian's creating, we'll try to create some ideas and some community here with you on a daily basis. Hope you have a great day. Go out and hustle. We'll see you Friday tomorrow. Ciao.